Kinevane, and I am an actor and a writer, I think. And I just did a show here today on Sunday in the Irish Arts Centre in New York, and just on a matinee at 3 o'clock of Forgotten. That's the name of the show. And I'm here talking to May.
Hey, thank you so much. And I just saw a brilliant performance. And the theme of the show, you have 4 different characters. All of them live in a nursing or retirement home. How did you come up with the idea, taking traditional Irish storytelling in a theater format and infusing it with kabuki? Why kabuki of all the theater genres? You chose that.
Well, I suppose what I did was there was no way I could ever study kabuki because it is, it's kind of inherited as a style, and it's so revered in the West, revered as a style. It's such a kind of almost a protected cultural thing in Japan that what I had to do really was just take elements or my own sort of bastardized version of something to be like, if it was the other way around. You know what I mean? Somebody would take what they thought was theatrical and was beyond words. So the main reason I kind of went for kabuki was because of the dance element in it. I have always been fascinated by Asian dance from any country, just fascinated by the power and the grace of the dance. I suppose even our own Irish dancing, I used to do it as a kid, and it seems it's what fascinates me is the different ways of expressing ourselves and different cultures expressing themselves. Ours was originally kind of full of passion and noise and stamping and jumping, and then I think the church intervened at one stage and it became very, very, we were told to keep our hands down by our sides when we dance. Whereas I think the Asian theatre and dance and performance always strikes me as being just bubbling over with grace. And I suppose that was one of the main reasons I wanted to enter that kind of a spiritual sort of a culmination of character and dance, so that they would maintain their dignity at all times, and the transitions in the show would be, I hope, graceful and dignified, and because I wanted to go against the typical way of representing old people, really, and the way they move, which is like decrepit and with walking canes, and you know what I mean, with Zimmer frames and that kind of stuff. And I just thought, no, I want to give this a bit of dignity, so I looked to the east.
And I remember there's one particular line in the play that struck me. They're saying that, the Japanese, now there's a crowd that really respects the elderly. How would you correlate that between, I guess, cultural differences, how they respect and treat the elderly between, let's say, the Irish culture and the Asian culture? I mean, what are your thoughts about that? How do you come about with dealing with that?
Just, I suppose, from bits of research I did and talking to people, and I kind of, what I gathered was that I suppose that the two cultures at one stage had a lot in common, whereby the 3-generational family living together was common to both cultures. Economically, I know things are changing in Japan, and that's changing, but the sense of duty is still there, and I think there's nothing wrong with duty.
No.
I think it makes for a very, very dignified society if you've got duty. In the West, we look at duty as a burden rather than a virtue. And I suppose really the Irish culture would have been saturated with duty, but something changed. The 3-generational family is very, very rare now to have grandparents and parents in older and a poorer Ireland, because the esteem in which the elderly were held was huge. They were the chief of the house, and the children learned to respect that. So you had the strata, and I think that's missing. And I think in Ireland it's missing because I think we ran away with ourselves, really, with money and perhaps greed. And I think we're all guilty in our own way of ignoring the needs and the very, very delicate needs of the elderly. And I like that Japanese cultural sort of quirk, that it's, maybe people go in Japan, maybe they go, well, I don't want to look after them, but I have to. But that fact is, sometimes you look to other countries to kind of learn lessons. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense completely. And I was also curious about how you came up with the stories for each character. I mean, were these people that you actually knew, or some people like friends of friends, or vice versa?
I think it was more a kind of a culmination of my fantasy, or my imagination, and also I did a lot of research, so I had a lot of kind of, I suppose, idiosyncrasies and a lot of character kind of reference to draw from. So I loads to draw from. So I actually did put them in, put as many kind of noticeable and kind of cliched as well characteristics of elderly people, but kind of spattered them around between the characters. At times, even when I was at the early stages of it, I would swap some characters thing, like Carrie has marshmallows, and I thought maybe Dora should have the marshmallows. No, because that's a particular thing in a lot of care homes, that elderly people eat marshmallows because it's easier on their teeth, things like that. So I was very blessed to have a lot of source material, and a lot of really, really brilliant people helped me with that. And I just feel as if they arrived and they gave me their time. So I'm very, very blessed, and I'm very grateful that they did. They feel it's like they're kind of living it all the time. And we put them in the suitcase, and then we travel on to the next venue, and they come out again. So,
what do you hope the audience out of by seeing your play? Only just respecting the elderly, but I guess what are your thoughts about what do you hope the viewer get out of seeing Forgotten?
Two things. When I decided to go on an adventure and do a solo piece, I've never done a solo piece before. One of my main reasons for doing it was I wanted to write a piece that made a difference. I wanted to make a social comment. And this, I suppose, what I'm trying to make is for people to be just aware of the issues of the elderly. That's all. Then people can go and do what they want after that, but I just wanted to stir it up, because there's nothing worse than not talking about it. I wanted to kind of bring it to the surface. So that's one. And number two, I hope that they would be aware of how they feel about their own ageing and those around them ageing. Theatrically, what I really and earnestly wanted people to see in Forgotten was something that they'd never seen before. I wanted to create something, I hope, that would have some sense of originality about it, and that would take people on a journey theatrically in a simple way. And we played it in big houses and small houses with effects and with smoke and with blah blah. And thank God it works from an audience point of view. They relate. And I suppose I wanted to take them on a journey of characters and back to 1943 and a time that's just so distant now, and a sensibility that's so distant. And ultimately what I wanted to remind the audience is that every single elderly person has a story to tell. They have a wonderful life and wisdom, and I wanted to kind of mark that and respect that.
Would you consider bringing Forgotten to a performance to somewhere like Japan? I
would love to. I suppose I would love to, but what I would saying is that I wouldn't want to offend anybody in the style, because it's inspired. My style is inspired by kabuki theatre. It isn't kabuki theatre. So, do you know what I mean? So, I would not like people to think that I was trying to copy or was trying to. I've just been inspired by, I suppose, a brilliant cultural heritage, and I wanted to kind of pay homage to that. So yeah, I'd love to go to Japan with this.
Have you seen a kabuki play yourself?
I've never seen a kabuki play. I've seen one in Dublin years and years ago. It was a short play. It was about 12 minutes long. But I got a lot of source material, and I got a lot of videos actually of kabuki plays. I don't know whether they were illegal or not.
Well, we won't. I won't keep it. I won't say anything.
Do you want to say anything about that?
Oh no. Thank you so much for your time.
You are so welcome. I'm really, really delighted to be here, and I'm very, very blessed, and thank you for listening to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
All right.